They knew when to push forward, when to take a long way around, and when to simply look at the horizon. Matter not today. Unsettled beneath the shade of a goat hair tent. To outsiders their pace seemed almost lazy. A slow drift across the dunes. But that steady rhythm wasn't the idleness, it was Sir Hasiao in the desert. Speed could be fatal, rushing men sweating more. Burning through precious water and flirting with heat stroke. Moving deliberately meant reaching the next well. The next village or even a lone patch of shade. With enough strength left to enjoy the fact that you were still LCE. And you can't talk about Bedouin Sir Hasiao without talking about the real superstar of the desert, the camel. These weren't just animals. They were multi-purpose Sir Hasiao machines. A camel was transportation, a mobile milk station, an occasional windbreak, an early warning system, and from time to time, an uncooperative at sea eco-worker, all in one free nobly package. To the untrained eye, a camel looks perpetually unimpressed, lopsided, awkward, and vaguely annoyed at the world. To the Bedouin, a camel was a life partner. A man without a camel in the desert wasn't he really a man on a journey? He was just a figure slowly cooking under the sun, wondering why his feet hurt. Camels can go for days, sometimes weeks, without drinking. This isn't some circus trick. It is an evolutionary masterpiece. They don't store water in their humps, that is fat, pure and simple. But their bodies are water management specialists. They sweat less than almost any other mammal, regulating their temperature so efficiently. They make marathon runners look clumsy, while you rain melting into the sand, like a dropped popsicle. They stroll past, wearing the expression of a professional, who has seen amateurs fail before, their feet white, thick and padded. Perfect for gliding over burning sand, without sinking or scorching. Their nostrils built in storm shutters that can clamp shut against whirling grit. Their milk a nutrient-rich, faintly salty elk hour that kept people LCE long before refrigerators or sports drinks were imagined. It was breakfast, lunch and electrolyte therapy all in one. And yes, Bedouins swore that a camel could smell water. If your camel suddenly pricked its ears and turned left, you followed even if your personal sense of direction told you otherwise. But owning a camel wasn't like owning a pet. It was like working with a skilled but temperamental colleague, one who might save your life today and spit in your face tomorrow. They were named, spoken to, and treated with deep respect. Better, in fact, than some modern folks treat their Wi-Fi routers. Now picture this: it as midday. The sun is a molten coin overhead, the kind of heat that makes the air wobble. Your sweat is sweating. Every part of you screams for something cold. Logic says find ice, find shade. For the love of sanity, find both. But the Bedouin pours boiling tea. It sounds insane and yet it is genius. Hot tea tells your body to start its own cooling system. You sweat, and in the desert as dry air, the sweat evaporates quickly, carrying heat away with it. Cold water can bloat you, cramp you, or trick your body into slowing its cooling efforts. Tea goes down in slow measured sips, each one steady hydration without overdoing it. No brain freeze, no chugging until you feel sick. Just controlled, efficient replenishment. And it wasn't tea always plain tea. Sometimes it was salted tea or infusions of sage, chamomile or other desert herbs. These weren't boutique blends in glass jars. They were practical medicine, restoring electrolytes and calming the stomach. After days of dried days and campfire bread, tea wasn't just about hydration. It was about ritual. In a world where life was stripped to essentials, the tea circle was a luxury worth protecting. Hospitality, negotiations, storytelling, they all happened with steaming cups in hand. To sip tea under a sun that could strip paint wasn't tea madness, it was mastery. A small deliberate act of dignity. A quiet refusal to let the desert dictate your spirit. And then there was water, the truest treasure. For most of us today, water is an afterthought. Something you pull from a fridge, in a plastic bottle with a mountain on the label. To the Bedouin, it was gold in liquid form, guarded, respected and never wasted. They knew how to find it, in a land that seemed barren to outsiders. A faint green plant, a certain bird as flight. A subtle depression in the dunes. There is a well over that ridge, they did say, and most of the time they were right. On the rare occasion they were wrong. Well, let us just say the camel would let them know, with a long disapproving stare. They dug deep wells, tapped hidden springs, even caught condensation by draping cloths overnight to collect the droplets. Not a drop was wasted. Pouring water onto the ground, without reason would have been unthinkable, a gesture reserved only for honoring the dead, or the truly beloved. Drinking was measured, never indulgent enough to keep moving, never so much that the body lost its salts. Overdrinking was as dangerous as thirst. That salted tea wasn't a quirk. It was a Sirhasial tactic. Every sip, every swallow was calculated. The Bedouin didn't Sirhasi the dessert by conquering it. They Sirhasi by listening to it, moving with it and respecting its terms. And in return the dessert allowed them to LCE, where others would have perished before nightfall. In the dessert, water wasn't just a drink. It was a moral contract. Sharing it with strangers was as binding as any treaty. Because to deny someone water was the nomadic equivalent of slamming the door on a freezing traveler. In a blizzard it could even ignite a blood feud. You didn't need to like your guest, or even know their name sometimes. Even sworn enemies would be offered a bowl of water before negotiations began. The dessert was ruthlessly impartial. Dehydration didn't care who you were, where you came from or what grudge you carried. Now picture this. You sitting outside your tent in the late afternoon, sipping tea, idly conversing with your camel about the day's events. When the light shifts, the horizon blurs, a jaundiced brown haze begins to crawl across the sky. Before you can mutter, who offended the weather spirits this time, the air turns to grit, and the wind begins sandblasting your face, like an overly aggressive spa treatment. Welcome to the world of sandstorms, or as Bedouins might have called them, Tuesday in the desert. Sandstorms are not freak occurrences. They're part of the weekly rhythm as common as sunburns, sore feet or unsolicited camel opinions. For an outsider, a sandstorm triggers instant panic. Arms flailing, eyes watering, lungs protesting. For the Bedouins, it was just another problem to outwit, preferably without losing a goat in the process. The first rule of Sirhasial was simple. Don't flap about like a startled pigeon. Instead, the Bedouin response began with awareness. They could often see a storm before it RC'd. A strange yellow tint to the light. The sudden hush of wonder, that eerie stillness. When the desert holds its breath. Once the signs appeared, it was tent lockdown time. Bedouin tents, usually airy and open at the sides for ventilation, transformed in minutes. Weighted cloth flaps came down like the fastest blinds in a city apartment. Goat hair, the miracle fiber of the desert, did its job. Breathable enough to let air pass, but dense enough to keep out most of the biting sand. Caught outside, that is where the cafe became a hero. With a few quick twists, the familiar headscarf turned into a sandproof mask, covering mouth, nose, and eyes. Some Bedouins carried extra cloths for emergencies, the desert version of a just-in-case first aid kit. If there was no tent, no camel, and no friendly rock to hide behind, the next move was counterintuitive but effective. Dig down, not run. A shallow trench in the sand could shield you from the worst of the blast. Bedouins would lie flat, cover up, and wait, transforming into steel, patient lumps that looked like nothing at all. Desert ninjas, but dustier. Eventually the storm would pass. The first order of business afterward was dusting yourself off, checking the camels, and sharing a laugh over who had sand in the most improbable location. Spoiler, it was usually the ears. To outsiders, sandstorms looked apocalyptic. To Bedouins, they were just another episode in the ongoing saga of sky. Earth's human preparation, patience, and practical scarves kept them LCE and relaxed like grit-free. And in the desert, Sirhasial wasn't just about braving the weather. It was about eating smart. When the sun itself could cook your lunch, and firewood was scarcer than sympathy from your camel, food choices weren't about indulgence, they were about endurance. The Bedouin diet was pared down to essential, simple, sustainable, and designed to keep you going, not growing. The undisputed champion of this menu was camel milk. More than a drink, it was a nutritional multi-tool. Rich in fat, protein, vitamins, and electrolytes, and astonishingly hydrating. Fresh milk was the gold standard, but in hotter months it was often fermented into lebain, a fizzy, yogurt-like drink that wasn't exactly a milkshake, but was refreshingly cool in 100 Fahrenheit heat. Then there were dates, compact, portable powerhouses of sugar, potassium, and fiber. They didn't spoil, weighed next to nothing, and Delcy-eared a sweet, chewy energy boost that didn't require cooking. Bedouins often paired dates with milk, creating a dessert that was sweet, filling and crucially not crunchy with stray sand. In a world where every calorie had to be earned, every sip guarded, and every breath filtered through claws, the Bedouins weren't just surhassying, they were mastering an environment that seemed designed to erase the unprepared. The storms came. The heat burned and the land withheld discomforts, but the Bedouin endured, laughing in the dust. Milk in one hand, dates in the other,